So my family and I, we relocated to San Antonio about 8 years ago, and even though we're like most folks and we really love it here, there's some things about this city that if you knew, you might think twice about living here. Stay tuned because in this video, I'm keeping it all the way real about the good, the bad, and the ugly of living in San Antonio, Texas. I'm giving you 5 pros and 5 cons. So let's get into it. Pro number 1 is the cost of living. Now I put this one first because when people reach out to my team and I about relocating, we're always like, so what's got you thinking about moving to San Antonio? And almost everybody says exactly the same thing. They're usually looking for a more affordable place to call home where the cost of living ain't all crazy high like where it is that they're coming from. Not only does San Antonio have the whole affordability thing figured out with our cost of living being just 90% of the national average, but we're still the most affordable big city in Texas compared to Dallas, Houston, and especially Austin. Really, I can't even believe what's going on up there. I mean, you might as well be living in California for what it costs to be in Austin. Now look, I know home prices have been acting a fool for the last couple of years, okay? But here in San Antonio, we're still building brand new homes with the latest finishes on good sized lots with spacious floor plans and beautiful communities with awesome amenities starting from the low 300,000s to the mid 400,000s. We've had clients tell us that one of the first things they've noticed is just how much farther their money goes once they moved here, whether it's at the gas pump, at the grocery store, the kind of home that they were able to buy, or even if it's just going out and having fun with friends and family. They just feel like they have the ability to do more, to have more, and to just live more once they get here. San Antonio really is the kind of place where you can afford to raise a family the way that you want to, and it's the big reason why my family and I moved here about 8 years ago when our daughters were just 6 and 9. Maybe you're just starting out in your career and you're looking for a city where you can actually afford to live close to where you work, or maybe you're done with that whole working thing and you're just looking for the type of place where you can afford to retire in style. We're getting calls every day from folks just like you researching homes and neighborhoods in the Alamo City, and we really dig it. So if you're thinking about buying or selling a home anywhere in the San Antonio area, then give us a call, shoot us a text, send us an email, or click the link in the description to schedule a Zoom call with a member of my team. However you want to get a hold of us, we've got your back in San Antonio, Texas. Oh, and when it comes to the whole state income tax thing,
we don't do that here.
con number 1 is the property taxes. Now, even though we don't have a state income tax here in Texas, our property taxes are a lot higher than most folks are used to when they're coming from other areas. And it's usually a big part of the conversation when my team and I are trying to help our clients decide where they want to live. The property tax rate in the city of San Antonio is about 2.71%, but if you do end up living outside city limits in Bexar County, out there you do get a little bit of a break and the taxes are just under 2%. Now that might not seem like a huge difference, but if you take a look at what that means against our median home price of about $400,000, it's a difference of paying anywhere from $8,000 a year to about $11,000 a year in taxes, which comes out to about $240 a month more or less in property taxes, pretty much for the exact same house depending on which side of the line you fall. I mean, that's a lot of money. The way the property tax is set up out here, it could easily be about a third of your mortgage payment depending on how you arrange your financing. So it's something we always like to make sure people understand, especially if you're nearing retirement, because as I'm sure you already know, you can always pay that house off, but then property taxes, they ain't going anywhere. Pro number 2 is our economy. Our economy down here in San Antonio is absolutely on fire right now. There is so much opportunity in this city for somebody to come here and either start their career or move up in what they're doing, or maybe you've got a business that you're looking to start or you got plans for expansion. San Antonio really is the place to be if you're wanting to grow. We've got so many mature industries and so many new companies coming to this area, bringing new jobs and more families that we're pretty well insulated from any sort of a downturn. We've got 4 military bases right here in San Antonio employing hundreds of thousands of service members, government contractors, and support staffers, and that really brings a lot of security and stability to the job scene around here. We're a major hub for the medical research and innovation in the region with the South Texas Medical Center in North Central San Antonio and the Stone Oak Medical Center on the far north side and BAMC on Fort Sam Houston. We're home to the corporate campus for USAA and the main operations locations for financial service companies like Wells Fargo, Chase Bank, Citibank, Frost Bank, and Nationwide Insurance. We've got the corporate headquarters for Valero Energy, New Star Energy, and Marathon Petroleum right here in San Antonio. And we've even got manufacturing covered with the expansion of both the Toyota plant and Boeing's aircraft maintenance facilities out here. And the tech scene here is really taken off with all of the opportunities we have in the data processing centers, cybersecurity, and all of the new projects going on in Port San Antonio. But suffice it to say that there is so much growth and so much opportunity and so much expansion going on right now that the city of San Antonio is really doing everything they can to try to keep up with everything. Which brings us to con number 2. the traffic. Now, I've been rolling my eyes for the last couple of years with everyone complaining about the traffic out here, mainly because it's not as bad as everywhere else in Texas. That, and just about everybody that we've helped move out here say that the San Antonio traffic really ain't nothing. But if I'm just keeping it real with y'all, the traffic situation out here is starting to get a little stupid, and there's really two parts to that. For one thing, we've had a ton of expansion projects with our highway systems and a number of our major roadways, adding new lanes and overpasses in an effort to keep up with our growing population, which has really been slowing things down a lot. And I know it's supposed to be awesome when these infrastructure projects get completed, but we've got a long ways to go in a lot of places in San Antonio before we start seeing the benefits. But the thing that you really need to be watching out for are all these crazy drivers out here in these streets. Man, ever since Texas did away with them traffic cam tickets back in 2019, everybody out here been treating them red lights like they're a suggestion to stop. Now, I'm the type of guy that can understand speeding up just a little bit to make it through that yellow light. But tell me how come every time my light turns green, it's always 2 or 3 more cars trying to fly through the intersection. Y'all know good and well y'all wanna go make it through that light in time. And this thing got so bad out here that most of the time I'm out here looking like I'm driving Miss Daisy trying to make sure the intersection is clear before I go taking off on a green light. And don't even get me started about the people who be pulling all up into the intersection when the traffic gets backed up, knowing they ain't got enough room to make it to the other side. Then the lights end up changing and now can't nobody make it through. Pro number 3 is that there is just so much to do here. Now, if you're out there bored living in San Antonio, it's gotta be something wrong with you. There's something like 50 million people a year that come to visit San Antonio just for all the cool stuff to do around here. Of course, we got all the normal touristy stuff you can get into, like hanging down at the Riverwalk. You can hit up the water park at SeaWorld and Aquatica, or you can spend a day getting cooked in the sun at Six Flags Fiesta, Texas. SeaWorld is better though. But once you actually live here and you get a chance to settle in a little bit, then you'll come to realize that San Antonio is about so much more than that. I mean, pretty much anything that you're into, you can find a place to do it right here in the Alamo City. If you're gonna spend a time outside, we've got dozens of parks and natural areas with miles and miles of walking trails, hiking and biking trails, and large green spaces with picnic areas, either with lots of shade or beautiful views for miles all around. Inside a lot of our newer communities, you'll find resort-style amenities with large pools and playscapes and sport courts and their own walking trails for you to take advantage of right in your own backyard. And speaking of luxury resorts, we've got those too with the JW Marriott Hill Country Resort and the La Cantera Resort and Spa if you're into getting your staycationing on. You can get your golfing fix at any of several award-winning courses around town, weaving through some of the most beautiful neighborhoods with views of the Texas Hill Country and some of the best real estate that you'll find in the entire city. You can spend a day out on the water, out on the far west side of town at Medina Lake, or further up north if you want to get up to Canyon Lake. And if you're into shopping, you can spend your money in some of the best indoor, outdoor shopping mall shopping centers that you're going to find anywhere in the state of Texas. And I'm not just talking about a few places either. Really, we've got them spread out all across the entire city, so you've got all kinds of options to choose from. There's a lot of youth sports programs and art and theater programs and extracurriculars for your kids to get into. And we've also got several large movie theaters and entertainment centers with arcades and bowling alleys and restaurants up in them. And you can take advantage of all of that any time of the day. Really, I can just keep going when it comes to stuff to do out here. But if you're going to be out having a good time, especially if you're going to be outdoors, then there is one thing that you're going to have to worry about, which brings us to con number 3. Allergies. So I've talked a lot about the allergy situation down here in a lot of my other videos, and we've had a lot of folks reaching out with questions about should they move down here if they've already got allergies. Is it really that big of an issue? And the short answer is, I don't know. This thing really is 50-50 on whether it's going to affect you or not. So if you're part of the lucky half, you're going to be looking at everybody else like they crazy. But if you're like me and the other 50% that really have issues with this stuff, you're going to have some problems. I can still remember that first year that we moved here. It'd be times where I'd step outside for like 5 minutes, maybe to go check the mail or something. And by the time I made it back in the house, I was looking like, yo, I ain't playing. Thing is, we've got these cedar trees down here in Texas that actually smell really good on a rainy day. But the pollen that comes off of these things ain't something that you want to mess with. You can literally see it floating through the air, coming off the trees, and it just gets all over everything. These cedar trees down here are such a big deal in Texas that we even have our own special drops just for what's going on for the cedar trees down here. The good news is that this stuff really does work. The bad news though is that it tends to sell out pretty quick at all the grocery stores, so sometimes you gotta go to 2 or 3 different places to see if you can get you some. But once you do, it'll change your life. And if that's not enough to deal with, every year around mid to late summer, we've got all this African dust floating through the air, burning everybody's eyes and throat. You heard me right on that one, dust from Africa. Apparently global trade winds pick this stuff up from the Sahara Desert, carry it all the way across the Atlantic Ocean, and sprinkle it all over Texas. If you're someone with respiratory issues, it can cause some mild to moderate irritation, but it's not all bad though. All that dust in the air really does make for some pretty amazing sunsets. Fortunately, this whole allergy thing with the dust and the pollen really is seasonal, so it's not like you've got to deal with it throughout the entire year. Which brings us to pro number 4, the weather. Now, I grew up in the Midwest where we'd have like freezing rain and snow on the ground, sometimes well into March. And the thing that I really enjoy about living in this part of Texas is just how mild the winters are and the warmer springs and the falls in the area too. Because of the warmer weather out here, all that outdoor fun stuff that we talked about earlier is actually available for you to take advantage of all year long. And even on the coldest days, it's usually just light jacket weather out here. One of the best things about living in San Antonio from a weather perspective is that we usually tend to get missed by all the severe weather that you find in different parts of the state of Texas. Further north up in Dallas in the Fort Worth area is where you tend to see a lot of the really crazy thunderstorms with large size hail and a higher concentration of tornadoes. And then 2 hours east of San Antonio, you've got Houston, which is probably one of the most flood prone cities in all of Texas. And that's really tough given that every single year they've got a lot of rain and from all the hurricanes down in the Gulf of Mexico. In fact, it's right here in San Antonio where we tend to receive a lot of the evacuees from the severe weather in different parts of the state. We've got a lot of sunny days and some really pretty amazing sunsets in the evenings around here too. Really, if you ask me, the weather down here in San Antonio is almost perfect. That is, of course, until you get to the hottest parts of the year in June, July, and August, which brings us to con number 4, the heat. Now, the heat down here in the summertime is downright disrespectful. You remember that stage in the old Super Mario game where you had to run all fast through the world because that angry sun thing was trying to get you all bad? That's kind of what the sun be like every summer down here in San Antonio. I figured after living in the desert of New Mexico for 6 years, I knew what heat was all about, but I wasn't ready for all this humidity. I can still remember the first couple of times I came to visit San Antonio. I was walking around downtown all sweaty and pitted out, trying to sit in the shade to get cooled off in some flip-flops and a white t-shirt that was about see-through. And everybody else just walking around with jeans on, looking business casual, all professional, obviously going to work, and they just walk around chilling like it's not 1,000,000 degrees outside. I just didn't get it. I used to think to myself, man, I really like visiting here, but I don't know about all this heat. Fortunately, most folks are able to acclimatize pretty well after a few weeks in the summer, and after living here for about 8 years, it ain't that bad anymore. One thing that I'm sure I'll probably never get my head around though is how we got all these teens running around out here in these streets with hoodies and sweatpants on in the middle of summer looking like a heat stroke. It don't make no sense. Pro number 5 is the people and the vibe. Now there's a lot that goes into deciding where to live, not the least of which is the feeling that you get when being there. And I know it's hard sometimes to put words to a feeling, but I'm telling you right now, San Antonio just hits different than anywhere else that you could live. There's so much culture and history and diversity here, and we've got some of the most laid back, easygoing, family oriented, live and let live type of people that you're gonna find anywhere. And there's a few things that play into that. Every year we get tens of millions of people that visit San Antonio, and not just from across the country, but really from around the world. So we're always used to welcoming people to our city. The 4 military bases that we have here also account for our strong sense of family and community. And in fact, it's one of the things that we hear from a lot of the people when they come to visit San Antonio. They just can't believe how welcoming and how nice and how friendly everybody is here. And even as a top 10 city with literally millions of people living here, we still somehow manage to hang on to that small town, easygoing vibe that a lot of people really appreciate. Con number 5 is the critters. Now I save this one to the end because I promise y'all, I ain't trying to scare nobody away from moving to San Antonio, okay? But that whole deal about everything being bigger in Texas is true when it comes to some of the bugs and the wildlife around here, especially the ants, the mosquitoes, and the wasps out here. And I don't care where you live in the city, pest control is something that you're gonna have to think about. Man, the way the fire ant situation is out here, they will legit set up shop and build their own subdivision and a little ant hotel in the backyard if you don't take care of this stuff. And I feel like every time it rains out here, it's always some new ant meal that I gotta go kill. And don't even get me started on the mosquito situation, okay? They will legit pick you up and carry you away as soon as the sun starts going down. But really it's the bees and the wasps that I can't stand the most because they'll build their nests all up high or up underneath these overhangs where it's easy for you not to be paying attention. And they'll sting you more than once too. So I was taking my trash out this one time, just minding my own business, when all of a sudden the left side of my body just burst into flames. Man, I come flying around the corner from the side of the house all fast, screaming all crazy, tearing my shirt off, getting all half naked, and running back into the house. And my neighbor's sitting across the street looking at me like I done lost my mind. Man, it turns out that some wasps done built a nest up under the fence post, and so when I took the trash out, they got all shook and flew out and licked me all up the side of my torso. Long story short though, is that you better stay stocked up on every kind of insect killer and bug killer that they got over at Lowe's and Home Depot, or you need to get set up on one of them annual pest control plans, because if you stay ready, you ain't gotta get ready. Now, if you're considering a move in the near future, my team and I, we're getting calls every day from folks just like you researching homes and neighborhoods in the Alamo City, and we really dig it. So if you're thinking about buying or selling a home anywhere in the San Antonio area, then give us a call, shoot us a text, send us an email, or click the link in the description to schedule a Zoom call with a member of my team. However you want to get a hold of us, we've got your back in San Antonio, Texas.